Hello everybody, welcome back to the Yotso Tech Tracks YouTube channel. Today, a quick little update for you guys regarding this Mazda 5 minivan. Once again, this is my father-in-law's car. It's a beater car, second car, winter car, whatever you want to call it. Just today, he came over and a P0401 was displayed from the check engine light. I scanned the code, and if you guys are familiar with that or not, it is an EGR, which is exhaust gas recirculation, insufficient flow. Basically, the operation of the EGR valve is it's going to recirculate exhaust gas back into the intake manifold to reburn, and is going to lower emissions. And basically, if you have that code, insufficient flow, it's usually not a big deal. I'll show you guys. This engine cover just pops off. Once again, this is a Ford 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine. On these vehicles, the EGR valve, I can show you, is right over here. Basically, it is electronically controlled valve. There's a plunger inside this part of it with these 4 little Phillips screws. Let me go right in there to show you guys. Basically, there are different procedures for this, but I kind of came up with a quick little solution I wanted to share with you guys to save some time. Looking at previous videos from other YouTube posters and even service manuals, to get this valve off, it is quite a labor-intensive job. It's only 2 bolts holding the actual valve in. There's an electrical connector which is right up here. This just pops off. But to get to it, basically the coolant lines have to come off. You have to lower the coolant from the vehicle, which is time-consuming, messy, and unnecessary for this vehicle especially. It has nearly approaching 290,000 kilometers, and again, I'm just keeping it on the road very cheaply and effectively, and working on things however they come and go. So what I did was, basically, I noticed these 4 little Phillips screws, if you guys can see, holding this valve in. The shiny one I replaced, it was stripped. Anyway, there's a good shot for you guys. 4 Phillips screws, it comes off, and you take off this electrical connector, and the top half of this EGR valve just pops off. And inside there's a plunger with a spring, and you can actually actuate that plunger with your finger, a screwdriver. And basically, I checked the flow by started the car, and as soon as you push on it, it's going to open up that valve, and the exhaust gas, it's a drilled passage inside the cylinder head, and there's one beside, I guess, cylinder number 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Inside the cylinder head, there's a passage that's drilled all the way across to this valve, and there's another port that leads to the intake of the vehicle. So when the throttle plate is closed, you can imagine when this valve is forced to be open, whether electronically or me pushing it manually, it's going to introduce exhaust gas into the intake manifold. So the way I checked about flow is just idling. I pressed the valve, and the engine actually cut off. It died because the intake manifold is very high at idle. Throttle plate is closed. You open that valve, it's going to suck in as much exhaust gas quickly as possible, and so we can tell the flow is there. Whether it's insufficient or not, I do not have the ability to monitor how much flow it's required. I'm sure after a while there's carbon deposits all inside. And one more thing to let you guys know, if you take these kind of problems to the dealership, first thing they would do is not clean the exhaust gas recirculation valve, because usually they don't do that anymore. They throw on a new one. However, in the near future, the code will come back again, because even though the valve is clean, all the passages going from the exhaust gas recirculation passage to this valve, and from this valve to the intake manifold, it's still dirty. It is very, very, very difficult to clean that. Basically, the best way to clean it is if you can get in there with a little tool, but it's almost impossible because these passages usually have sharp 90-degree turns. And actually, the way to do that, if you remove the whole cylinder head, you can sonic clean it inside a tank, which is going to agitate any loose debris on it, but you're talking about half of the engine have to come off. So basically what I did was disconnect this valve, take off the top of this plunger, and when I see that little valve, I can press. I got my father just to come here, start the engine. Imagine you start the engine, give it gas, rev it up to whatever, 3, 4, 5,000 RPM, and you can activate the plunger. In that case, all the exhaust that's going out some of it is going to be forced through that valve because you manually open it. The intake is going to be sucking it in, and whatever debris there is in there, it's going to help lift it away. Another thing, if it's not enough, you can actually, well, this vehicle has a very sick exhaust, but if you can imagine you had a really good condition exhaust, you can actually put something here, like let's say a piece of a ball or something. You can hold the exhaust closed with your hand, and that's going to increase the back pressure all the way up, which is going to force even more flow through this passage. And actually I'm hoping this will temporarily fix this problem. Once again, it's not a big deal if it comes back. This is a very simple code, you can clear it. It's not worth it on a vehicle like this to get into removing it, replacing it, and going through that hassle, because it's a big job on this vehicle and it's completely unnecessary. And older vehicles like this, anything you touch, it's brittle, it's going to break, crack. As little plastic grommets like this, you see wiring harnesses are very old and brittle. After a while, you get the idea. If you don't need to, don't touch it. This is a very quick, easy fix. Judging by pushing the plunger, it's very free to operate, so I'm hoping this will solve this problem for the near future. And if I ever get this code coming back, I will let you guys know and update you how far it lasted. I'll give you guys the mileage, so when I make a future video we can compare it together. 283,820 kilometers right now. We're hoping to get this vehicle up to at least 300,000 kilometers. Once again, it's a second car, it's a beater car. I've done a lot of work to it, front to back, just to make it look half decent on the road. The biggest problem with these Mazdas, once again, is the rust. These things rust like crazy. A lot of these vehicles on the road are just basically made of half rust from the rocker panel down. I don't want to get dirty right now, but if I would go underneath this vehicle, the whole bottom looks like the Titanic. So it is what it is. This vehicle will keep running until any major expense repairs come up, and in that case it's going to the junkyard. Anyway, I thought I'd share this with you guys. If anybody has a vehicle like this, these are very similar as the Mazda 3s, Mazda 5s. A lot of Mazdas in these years share the same 2.3 liter Ford engine. The really good thing is this is serviceable actually with these 4 bolts. A lot of these things are riveted together or pressed together and they're not serviceable, or at least not that easily as 4 bolts and then the top half comes off. That is very unusual actually. A lot of these designs are basically you cannot even open them up without having to pry them apart, and in that case you can do some damage. So anyway, I thought I'd share this with you guys. Hope it